Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome back to Business Innovators Radio. I'm your host, Frank Falker. Well, as small business owners, oftentimes we're focused on increasing sales. In fact, that's the kind of thing that keeps you awake at night, doesn't it? And when you break it down to the most essential areas through which you can generate new business, it really comes down to three potential sources. Brand new clients, brand new customers, people you've never done business with before. Then repeat business from those brand new clients over time. And then a third area is referral business. And I can tell you from my own experience as a business owner myself and working with just hundreds of small business owners across the country over the past 40 plus years that most business owners focus on generating new client relationships. And if you do that, and if you ignore repeat and referral business, you are literally ignoring and leaving 2/3 of your potential new sales on the table. Because it's often easier to get additional and repeat business out of your existing clients. We hear that all the time. It's easier to do that than to get a new client. But one area that people probably would not say is easier than getting a new client is asking for referral business. Many of us get embarrassed asking for referrals. We're not quite sure how to ask for a referral. We don't know who to ask for a referral. And that's why I have brought our guest, William Davey, to the microphone today. William is the author of the upcoming book, The Referral Factory. And I have seen him speak on numerous occasions on the topic of generating referral business. And I also happen to know that the vast majority of the sales of his business are created through referrals. And so I would like to welcome William Davey to Radio Free Enterprise.
Thank you, Frank. I'm honored to be here.
I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, William, to join us today. Now, many people, when they think about referral business, they think about asking their customers for referrals. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview. But the fact is that the majority of your business comes from referrals from people who have never purchased your services before. I want to understand, how do you make that happen? You're in the home improvement and remodeling business. How do you get people who may not even be homeowners themselves, much less purchased your services? How do you get these people to refer you business?
Well, the ultra simple is we ask. But
well, there is that.
Realistically, we found a nice formula for incentivizing the referral process, making it very simple and repeatable. We find the first tier will be other service providers who have access to influence over or strong client contacts with our target audience. Okay. That being the leading question. And when we find them...
Now, wait a minute. What kind of service providers are you talking about?
Well, we're talking about let's say, for instance, other home service providers. For instance, flooring contractors, electricians, could even be realtors, but it could even be their Mary Kay distributor, consultant. We don't want to rule anyone out, but as first tier, we're going to find people who have that same common target market. Mm-hmm. We're having similar conversations that are already in the home and have the credibility of that homeowner.
Let me just stop you because I want to break this down as easily and simply as possible. So the same target market, who is that target market?
Well, for us, it's homeowners in Northern Virginia, between 35 and 60 that are very busy. They live in homes of $500,000, of value of $500,000 or more. Mm-hmm. And the other service providers that have their ear, have their confidence.
Mm-hmm. And what were those three critical elements? I wanted to come back to that.
Sure. It's who has access to, influence over, or strong client contacts with the target audience.
Great.
And that's, as far as referrals go across the board, that's the overarching question that everyone needs to ask about who they're targeting, whether it's indeed the transactional client, the end user of your product itself, or someone who has access to your target audience.
So you may even ask for referrals to other referral sources.
Exactly. That's taking it out a couple of tiers.
Interesting. And, one thing that strikes me as we're talking about this, William, is that it requires, if you will, a level of referral consciousness. that you need to be thinking about asking for and generating referrals on an ongoing basis?
Sure. We refer to that as simply as an RPQ, referral potential quotient. If you're referral oriented and if you're able to be referred or simply referable, and that's an easy statement to make, but it differs in the eyes. It's a fairly subjective judgment, and it differs in the eyes of the other service providers. Who do they deem as referable? It's not about your idea of being referable. It's about their idea of who they would refer.
Wow.
So what do I need? So the question, I guess, it would be, what would I need to do, Mr. Falker, to be referable in your eyes?
Wow.
And that's a question that most people don't even think to ask. But it's saying, well, given all the people that you could refer, what would I need to do to be honored enough to receive one of the best gifts ever, which would be a referral from you?
That's fantastic, William. I love that. And so that requires us to do something that most of us never do, which is actually put ourselves in the other person's chair and look at things from their perspective.
Sure. I refer to that colloquially as bottom line theology. For referring business to me, to my firm and my team for home improvement is great, but what's in it for you or that service provider? And we think about what their bottom line theology is, what matters to them. Mm-hmm. The proverbial flooring contractor, of course, they want to have good client relations, a great relationship with their client. And our job, if we're so honored to be referred, is to make them look good in front of their clients, but also to help them do more business. Because if what we can do can translate to more business for them, then it's a win-win.
And that increases your referral potential quotient in their mind.
Exactly. That's it. That's the premise.
That's great. So let me. I want to go out of my order of questions here because I want to keep going down this line. So, what are the types of things that we can do to present ourselves as being eminently referable? How do we increase our RPQ?
Well, there's a way of assessing the relationship. And when I want to talk about the human life value, of course, everyone's completely valuable. We're talking about the business and referral value and potential between people. And it's a lot simpler than most people think, but understanding what their challenges are, understanding how they do business, what their client concerns are, and delivering on that. In 2 words, in any relationship, to increase the value of the relationship, simply add value. That's a simple statement, but you have to understand the person on the other side of the table, that entity. You have to understand what works for them to be able to add value. For instance, sometimes people superimpose their value over top of a potential referral source, saying, you've given me a referral. I want to give you something of a reward or add value to our relationship. I think chocolate's valuable. I'm going to give all my referral partners chocolate. You find out half of them are diabetic, half of them are on a diet. You've offended all of them in one fell swoop.
That's great.
Well, it's easy to say, well, what would I do to add value? How do I know? Very simple, 3-letter word, ask. And as you interview them and get to know who they are as people, as business providers, and what their challenges are, it becomes easier and easier to understand how we can build a win-win relationship.
That's great. Well, we're getting into some very subtle and important concepts here, but I want to reel it back a little bit and try to get more to the front line, if you will, of asking for referrals. A lot of people are embarrassed to ask for a referral, and they don't know what words to use or when to ask and who to ask and what to say. How can you help us here? What is there a correct time to ask? Who should we be asking? And as we ask, what word should we use?
Well, great point, Frank. In my earlier sales experience, I've done many years of in-home sales as well as sales training and management and so on. It's interesting because the term referral implies everything from just give me a name and a number that I can call, which is really a cold call, maybe a lukewarm call, to a close contact referral where the person's been pre-approached, given the opportunity to say no, and they insist, yes, I definitely want to meet this person because I think they can help solve my pain. Anywhere in between is considered a referral. So it's an overused term. We tend to focus more on the latter. If they have a problem and they've tried to solve it and it hasn't worked, and the pain is such that they want someone to help them, that's what we consider a referral. They've been told that we can help them. Do you want our help? Yes, then we get introduced. At that point, it's fairly easy to ascertain whether we can truly help them or not and make it a win. Mm-hmm. But in terms of who to ask and when to ask, there is a certain protocol, the dance steps, as it were. It differs per relationship, but in a general sense, you can ask customers for referrals. But sometimes people ask, well, give me your 5 neighbors, or who do you, names of several friends. And they may have 5 neighbors. They may know all their names. They may give you the numbers, and those neighbors may even be agreeable to talking to you on the phone. But just because they have a house and they have windows and a roof and siding doesn't mean that they're at the point of the educational spectrum where they're ready to make that transaction. It may be years down the road and you're just making an acquaintance. So we wouldn't consider that really a referral. But who to ask and when. Other service providers have the need to continue building their business. So insofar that we can be a resource for them to continue to add value to the client relationship and help them increase their business, we think that the time to ask is right away.
Right away, like right at the end of a project? Or
well, not relating to the project itself. It's going to a service provider and talking to them about their business and asking, do they refer business? Are they interested in growing their business? And let's talk about putting a strategy together where we can refer them and they can refer us. Now, I want to be careful here because there's a very necessary differentiation that needs to be made here. It doesn't always have to be you refer me and I refer you. Mm-hmm. There's generally is very high level of value provided when we just do exactly what we say we're going to do on time or before and take great care of your clients without the referral coming back the other way. Because if you can't deliver on those, if you're not able to provide referrals, is there still value in them having referred us? So insofar that we help solidify to the extent possible that client relationship and help them become even more referable, that's certainly a help to them and something they can count on that has value.
Now, it sounds like you or person listening doesn't want to get into a referral relationship with just anybody. I mean, you want to be able to confidently refer your clients and your people that you have good relationship with to somebody that you know will take care of them in the way that you've just described. So, and this comes back, I guess, to the referral potential quotient. But as you're talking to, let's say, flooring contractors, realtors, what have you, are there sort of green lights, red flags that they say or behaviors they engage in that tell you, oh, this person's going to be a great referral source, or run from this person like the plague?
Oh, great question, Frank. There are some very subtle nuances there. There are some things obvious that become more obvious than others. If they're organized, if they're planned, if they're someone who very, very predictable behavior, that etches higher on the referral potential quotient. Mm-hmm. How strong are their relationships with their clients? Are they simply in and out and they have very little conversation? So let's say, for instance, if someone was looking for a referral source and they needed access to, shall we say, medical offices, mm-hmm. doctor's offices, I need someone who has access to doctor's offices. Well, the person that comes in and puts down the mats in the office has access to doctor's offices. Very little credibility, doesn't have a conversation with them, is not in relationship with the doctor, and their recommendation is going to have very little impact, if anything. In fact, it might even be counterproductive for them to make a recommendation to you. Mm-hmm. As you can well imagine, this conversation, the flooring person, or the person putting the mats down says, oh, by the way, doctor, who do you use for your financial planning?
Right. Yeah,
so, okay. And not to denigrate anybody in terms of their credibility, whatever, but saying in terms of what to target. Mm-hmm. So we would look for, in a relationship, someone who has a strong relationship with their clients, but is also looking to grow, that has a demonstrated plan for growing their business. The more planned, the more stable, the more predictable their business is, the more referable they are, in my opinion.
Interesting. Now, how about, I guess we could look at the reverse of that. They're disorganized, they're unreliable, whatever. But is there anything, I guess here's what I'm driving at. I'm looking for a red flag, and what I'm really looking for is something like, you get the sense, William, as you're talking to this person, that they're very me oriented. They're very transactional oriented. It's, quid pro quo every go round. What kinds of things have you seen that let you know right away, I don't want to get in a relationship with this person?
Another great question. Let me say, having strategy meetings with prospective referral partners give a lot of indication to how that relationship is going to begin, whether there even should be a relationship there. For instance, if the person on the other side, this is ultra obvious, but the person on the other side of the table, excuse me, is more interested in selling me their product than doing a one-off so I could refer them to my clients so they could do many transactions as opposed to the one that I might represent. That's a little short-sighted. That's, again, pretty obvious. But another thing would be this. As you're doing a strategy meeting with a prospective referral partner, or even with a referral partner, are they listening to what I have to say? Are they merely putting up with my sentences to wait for their turn to interject? Are they taking notes? Do they ask me questions about how things work in my business, or is it all them oriented? I do have interviews with referral partners where we'll say, for this meeting, we're going to focus on this specifically about your business. The next time we get together might be focusing about a specific entity of my business as we deepen the relationship. But there are, of course, as I refer it, the Barney strategy meetings.
Barney?
The Barney strategy meetings.
Okay.
At the end of the strategy meeting, they talk about, I talk about you, we talk about you, we talk about me. At the end, I love you, you love me. Let's go. We got a big stack of business cards, and I get a big stack of yours, you get a big stack of mine, and nothing comes of it, and it just fizzles. And that's what I would call a Barney strategy meeting. It's a well-intentioned, but without a plan of action going forward, it doesn't really work. But in terms of who to ask for, or how to, I guess, I meant to say, who to build a relationship with in referrals, number of things to look for. Again, there can be great referral sources that are completely disorganized, that give you the onesies and twosies over the course of time. You don't want to eschew those referrals to be a source for them. But the best, most productive win-win relationships are with those people who are interested in how your business works and also how you work. Tell me about you. Tell me about beyond the business. What are you about? What is your biggest challenge? How can I marshal my resources to help you? Because literally, Frank, at the end of the day, the proverbial day, when business is done, the lights go down, the crickets are chirping, it's literally, for most business owners, them against the world.
Yes, it is.
So this gives a chance, and you can only do this if you're really sincere about it. If you're going to build a relationship with these referral partners, you can literally transcend that by putting yourself on the other side of the table and saying, from here on out, and unless you decide you want to do otherwise, it's you and me against the world. You can't say that unless you actually mean it. And you can't fake it. You've got to be there. And if you can be there for them, it changes the game, because it's now you and them against the world, and they can count on you. I mean, think about it. Any business owner, you look to your left, you look to your right. How many people are there with you, thick and thin, that really care about what happens to you? There's unfortunately few. This is a chance to reconfigure that equation.
That's interesting, because it truly is lonely at the top. If you're running your own business, you can't talk to your employees about your problems. You can't talk to, who are you going to talk to?
Well, success is a many splendored thing. Many people take credit for the success, and when it's failure, we succeed together and we fail alone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I wanted to, a lot of people, when the word referral comes to their mind, they think about networking groups. And they think about, breakfast networking groups that you and I are familiar with. And there are a lot of different types of those groups, but even within a given group, I'll just use the example of BNI, of Business Networking International, you and I are both very familiar with. And, there are thousands, I would imagine, BNI groups around the world. But there's a huge difference between the most effective ones and the least effective ones. So I want to talk to you about generating referrals through groups like BNI. And I want to start by asking, how do I choose a group? How can I tell whether or not a particular group is going to be an excellent source of referrals for me? A
way to tell, and of course there's different levels of referral groups, different types of referral groups. One of the primary questions I would ask is, where can I contribute the most? It's not just about what you get. There's got to be a win-win. If you're just there to get, and there are many people who are, that limits the what's going to be effective. But in light of what time you have available to attend, because some of them have some groups have an attendance requirement where you're required to be there at each meeting. I mean, they have there's a little bit of flexibility, but some of them are attendance requirements, and others have they're exclusive per profession. These kind of things. I would look for something that has a very solid relationship building, ongoing process, well defined and well measured process. That's something I would tend to look for. What gets measured gets done. So do they measure the effectiveness of referral relationships, not only in terms of the dollars that are being passed, but the quality of those relationships? That's fairly subjective, but there are also things for networking. Again, like referrals, is an overused term that runs the gamut from a bunch of strangers in a room throwing business cards into a punch bowl and standing around talking with their friends, hoping that business will come their way, to a close contact specific group that has a defined purpose, defined relationships, and meets routinely and deepens the relationships over the time for the purpose of referring business, and everything in between. So depending on the engagement capacity of the person wanting to go to the group, let's say we have a salesperson, one of our project consultants that we want to get engaged in a referral process, in a referral group. Depending on their engagement ability, it may be a chamber breakfast that they go to where there's not exclusive, they're occasional and you can attend intermittently. If their level of engagement is only limited, then that would be what I would tend to recommend. But if they have the ability to build deep relationships over the course of time and be very stable and attend regularly, then a close contact relationship building referral organization might be better for them. See, the thing is, some people's idea of networked business is, again, a bunch of strangers in a room. Put a bunch of people in a room, give them some food, throw some drinks at them, and hey, they'll figure it out. And there is some business that comes to that. And that's certainly not a bad thing. That would be what we call wide contact referrals. But I think the best, again, is building relationships. And you can begin a relationship, but if you're always spearfishing, you always have to do the exact equal amount of work. The benefit of building long-term relationships is not only for solid client relations and additional sales and the reward of building strong friendships, it's the time leveraging that when you do the work one time, you build on it. So akin to building an estuary where it takes more time to build, but the amount of fish that would generate would be enough to feed an entire community as opposed to spearfishing, getting them one at a time.
What a great analogy. That was very, very well put. I get it. All right, so let's put ourselves back in the shoes of our listener again. And they're not nearly as experienced as you are at referral marketing and networking and so forth. If you were that person walking into a networking group for the first time, what would you do? How would you best establish yourself and what your story is, and also then begin to vet out the other players in the room?
The thing you would need to do is to have yourself clearly identifiable as to who you are and what you do.
Okay.
So even something as simple as a name badge that has just your first name on it in large letters so people can understand to be comfortable to talk with you.
Now, you're saying a custom-made name badge that you have that has your branding and your name on it, or what do you mean?
Ideally, yes. You look more the part of somebody who knows what they're doing, gives you additional credibility. But if you have my name is, make sure you write it in big block letters to have your name so it makes it easier to know who you are.
Sure.
If people have to decipher it, what's difficult doesn't get done as readily. And people like things to be spoon feed easy. So if your name is big and emblazoned, they can see your name and engage you by name. But also I would look in a group to see how many regular attendees do they have, what's the level of business they're doing, and when people are speaking and talking about their business, what's the engagement level of the other people there. And are they listening to that person and making appropriate notes as they're sharing their heart, as they're sharing, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for, please listen for this. Here's my drive, here's my challenge. Or are they merely waiting for their chance to speak? Or worse, are they engaging on Facebook or something else that's there? This doesn't mean much to them. It's a low-level engagement. I just wish this guy would finish so I can get up and speak, so I can get out of here, so I can go on to my next event.
Yeah.
I remember this at one point in time, I was working for a referral organization at the point in time, talking with him about the value of getting his salespeople. He had 14 salespeople who sold office products to get involved in close contact referral networking. And there were room in the organization that I was working within. They had, those seats were open in many of the chapters that I was in authority over, and suggested strongly that he should get his people into these chapters. This would be very beneficial for their business. And he literally told me they don't have time to meet these meetings because they have their cold call quota.
Oh, wow.
To finish. And I asked him, I said, his name was Jack, did you just tell me that you don't have time to get close contact referral business that's going to be, we all know is beneficial because they're too busy cold calling? And he almost had to chuckle thinking, oh, I just literally said those words.
Did I just say that?
So it's, there are so many people who try to make networking work. And I've heard of networking. I've done that. I've heard of referrals. I've done that. It doesn't really work for me. It does work with the right formula. And my job here is to share the formula that's worked for us and try to tell people this is not completely unpredictable. We can make this as predictable as a Betty Crocker cake recipe.
Wow.
If you do this, if you put in the 2 eggs in the oil and the bacon at this temperature and it comes out, here's a very predictable finished product. The challenge is, since it's somewhat subjective, is the person who wants to go to to do networking or referrals, they decide arbitrarily to rearrange the ingredients or eliminate some of the ingredients. I think 2 eggs is too many. We'll do 1. And we won't put oil in. We'll put milk or water. And 350 degrees in an oven is a lot of resources to use. Let's make it 100 and bake it for half the time. And you look at say again, Betty Crocker cake mix. You look at the box and say, here's the finished product. It's pretty predictable. But when they open their oven, they pull out the semi-gelatinous glop that doesn't resemble anything that looks like on the box. They, in that case, tend to want to blame Betty Crocker when it falls in their own lap.
That's great. Well, we could talk about this forever, and I really enjoy everything that you share, and you make it so clear. It just, it's the blinding flash of the obvious, I believe. I've heard you use that expression in the past. But we do have a limited amount of time. And so if I don't want to have a half-baked referral program, and I would like to reach out to an expert such as yourself. I know your book, The Referral Factory, will be coming out fall of 2016. But there's no way to know what date it is today as someone's listening to us. What's the best way for you? I know you speak on referral marketing, you train, you consult, and so forth. What's the best way for us to connect with you to learn whether or not you can help us?
Well, the easiest way to connect with me would simply be to email me at William at thereferralfactory.com.
Okay, William at thereferralfactory.com.
Though the date of the release of the book is a very closely held secret, I will maintain vigilance to be available to answer questions for folks that have referral-oriented questions, because I just think it's really important to help people as much as possible in business. Again, there's business owners that are tending to want to be successful have few friends. There was someone who wrote a couple thousand years ago something I thought was very salient. Said, "Withhold not good to them to whom it's due, when it's in the power of your hand to do it." Well, we have the power to help each other. I said, let's take away the barriers and let's make that happen.
Wow, that's fantastic. I absolutely think it's a great idea for us to close on that point, because I don't think we can do better than quoting the person you just quoted there. William Davey, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Frank.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.